Welcome to the new Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's new Cyber Frontier.
Welcome to the new Cyber Frontier. I'm your host, Tim Montgomery, and I'm here today with my guest, Mr. Jim Mallahey. Got that right, Jim? Thank you, sir. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the topics I think we're going to try to cover here. Jim and I are actually sitting in what they call a vCISO. We're talking a little bit about what vCISO might be, or what it means to the topic in today's world in cybersecurity. We'll get into a little bit about the class and just kind of how that's going to mold our lives and how those things are going to trend into other things. And I believe, Jim, you've actually established your company already, which is something that we talked about in that class as well. So we'll get into some of that. I give it over to you, Jim. Introduce yourself a little bit, please, for me. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tim. I'm certainly thankful for you having me on. I'm sure we'll do well today. Basically, I come to us today with a background in information technology, about 25 years. The last 15 have really been focused on security. I'm looking to take it to that next level. Like you just alluded to, I started my own business only about a month ago. We're building the foundation, which is going to be following Dr. Cole's vCISO format and also providing training to those looking to enter the field so we can close that skills gap. And I'm so excited about it. I think that Dr. Cole has certainly given us a great platform to get started and really become that world-class CISO that he talks about in the program. So
awesome.
Tim, great.
Yep. Thank you for that. So let's just jump right in. I know we've been having a conversation quite a while now, talking a little bit about why did they put that V in front of the CISO idea? Now, we all know that CISO, correct, is Chief Information Security Officer, which is supposed to change to something like Chief Security Officer because it's got one too many letters in it, apparently. So as you know, the C-suite says we can only have like 3 letters. It can't be much more than that, right? What's the idea? What do you think is behind the idea behind this vCISO combination? I guess you can call it that, essentially. What's your thoughts?
So, I mean, I think that going with the 4th letter, like you had mentioned, was really trying to break out the physical security from the cyber or information security aspects. So that's why it originally occurred. In my opinion, and I think that it's shared amongst most in the community, that it will come back to being, in most organizations, a full CSO, a chief security officer, which will cover the physical aspects as well as the information security aspects.
Yeah, I think you're right. The physical parts of it, the integration of that physical part has seemed to be left out a little bit there. So, that's something I think they are encouraging organizations there. The V part of that, a virtual CISO idea, and coming from the concept that not all companies can afford a full-blown, full-time individual they would call a Chief Information Security Officer, seems to alluded to the market actually producing part-time and on like service management type fees where you can buy a CISO part-time or quarter-time so this idea of a virtual CISO coming in and supporting what the small needs of a small company to a middle-sized company concept is started playing a big role in the market. And have you heard or what's your idea behind that as far as history goes? Have you been a part of vCISOs before or anything like that?
Cyber Resilience Institute helps build strong cyber communities designed to prevent members from attack. Like building a neighborhood watch, it takes coordination and a sharing community to protect our identities and valuables in the virtual world. Typically, we hear that organizations know they need to do something to protect their cyber assets, but don't know where to begin. Let Cyber Resilience Institute help your community create an action plan. Cyber Resilience Institute will build your community or business marketplace so that it is designed to support a collective cyber defense. Contact them for more information at cyberresilienceinstitute.org.
Well, for me, even before Dr. Cole's program, I had been looking into the concept of CISO. I mean, in my consulting career, we've come across a lot of different senior security advisory roles that were leading toward that. So I think this is a concept that was long coming, but wasn't really well defined. And now, I mean, the vCISO, the way Dr. Cole really frames it, puts us in a situation to do it incredibly well and enable these smaller companies to be able to get the benefits without the full cost. So it's kind of right sized to their budget and what their business needs are, because that's ultimately what we need to achieve.
Yeah, you're right. And so let's get into this class, what they call the vCISO. So Dr. Cole, what was his company? What was it called?
Secure Anchor?
Secure Anchor, yes, sir. And it's on LinkedIn. You can find it on LinkedIn out there. I'm pretty sure later on I will have a conversation in one of these other podcasts with the gentleman. If I can ever get his assistant to get me on the schedule. He's a busy man. But Dr. Cole has a background in a lot of the board type elements for advisories as an actual chief information security officer and a chief information officer himself, and has built a company off of. I think he did research in his doctorates is actually in management for business. And so he's kind of encouraged the idea of supporting this vCISO venture and creating classes that I don't think has been there before. He's got a lot of podcasts himself, a lot of YouTube videos and things I think he lets us see. He sits down and talks about the components of how to actually build up the role of the Chief Information Security Officer. And so this is the class that Jim and I have been in for the last several months now. If you're looking for something like that out there, certainly search out Dr. Cole. Eric Cole is out there, and he's got a pretty good class. I've been very pleased with it myself. Now, there is a fee, so you're going to have to look into that yourself and figure out if that's worth it for you. It was worth it for me, and I'm sure it was worth it for Jim just a month ago.
Absolutely.
Like you said, his business took off, and that was a lot to do with Dr. Cole and his presentations on the way he feels cybersecurity, at least the upper part of cybersecurity, should be moving. We all know the cultural factors behind cybersecurity sometimes in business doesn't always partner well with the business objectives and goals. So we have a training factor of trying to be a salesman at some point, I think, and learning how to be the marketer for cybersecurity some days. Within our own organization sometimes, or as the engineer goes, if you were the engineer side of this, and I had been on that side too, where it was more the naysayer, I guess you could call him, the one who always seemed to say, no, we can't do cybersecurity, it's always in the way, or you were that type of person where you were the cybersecurity individual, being that chief engineer, and you were always saying no to the operational side of it. So there's always been that type of standoff somewhat. You think, Jim, they would, it wouldn't be that way any longer. What are your thoughts on that? I know you've had some history with this.
Well, I mean, you framed that up, I think, perfectly, where basically there's been such a security has always been seen as the doctor no, or impeding what business really wanted to achieve. And I always thought that I was working well in that way. I had a role of cybersecurity governance officer for the last financial institution I worked for. And I did a lot of the board reporting to the executives. And ultimately, I thought I was really covering all the right material for the board, but I was getting too much into the weeds and really covering it from a technical perspective when the board really wants to see what are the numbers in terms of what is the financial impact of the decisions that you're putting in front of them. What is the risk and the financial impact, and how much is it going to take to remediate the particular risk? And once learning the new what I'll say is new is what Dr. Cole is teaching about how to better communicate and connect with your board of directors. That's really going to be a game changer for anyone in this role, because basically security then becomes an enabler for the business. And that's the key point of distinction, because when we're seen as the impeding progress and the cost, that's going to be a real problem for obtaining funding to properly secure an organization.
Absolutely.
While when you are then able to turn the tables and frame it appropriately, you can obtain the funding.
You end up gaining more appropriation, right? So the funding seems to be in your pocket now. So genuinely, I think cybersecurity's historical parts hasn't always been entertained. Just like when the CIO first arrived, the idea of CIO, Chief Information Security Officer, and the CEO, COO arena back 20 plus years or so, the techies were just the gentleman in the closet resetting modems, or the server it was going down, or my phone doesn't work today. Computers weren't thought of in that manner. Today, it literally is running our show. So I think as the trends catch on with that same concept, and the chief security officer idea comes into play more and more, I think we see our world trending more and more towards that concept of being more at the forefront, more the priority, more of those elements. So it's genuinely something to get into. I think if anyone's interested out there, they certainly should check this class out. I think you're right about that, Jim. I think he genuinely wants to train individuals, because I think the one thing that might be the most pressing about individuals trying to get into these types of fields is they don't have the combination, the management side along with the engineering aspects that kind of combines an individual to be suited very well to be a chief information security officer. So I think that's what this class really encompasses, and emboldens you to kind of step out of if you're a good old engineer who just loves to play the engineering role really well, but just can't seem to get the concept of how that management works. This is something for you, something for all those different little non-offshoots of different people with different combinations of where they're at in their life.
And Tim, I'd like to really add to that. I believe that the course is put together in such a way where it also goes to those business executives that want to make the change into technology, because he applies the right mix of training in the program.
Awesome. Yeah, you're right. I haven't caught on to that side of it. I'm usually on this side of it because I was the engineer, right? Still trying to trend into what business means and how it's supposed to be looked at. So still in the learning path myself and understanding how those goals kind of function. So your business is what are you? Just a month ago, you had your business established, and can you give me a little more elaboration details about your business and what you're kind of wanting to do?
So what I'm really looking to do with Cyber Inspired is we're going to be providing vCISO services and several assessment services that lead up to that. That's one end of it. The other end is what I want to really do is become more fulfilled in helping individuals enter the field while closing the skills gap. And what that means is I want to really train individuals in some underserved communities, such as the veterans and girls in STEM or women in cybersecurity. That members of my team are very major advocates of those organizations, and we want to make sure that that's part of the market that we focus on training. We're not going to turn away anyone, but we want to be able to help design a new training path for individuals just getting started, helping them overcome the traditional, what they might seem as obstacles. We want to rip down those walls. And really not only give them the education, but also walk them through obtaining the experience through an apprenticeship-like experience and providing mentorship throughout the period. So then we can help them more rapidly become employable within the field, and employable in a meaningful way so they can contribute right away. For instance, we want to be able to help individuals be able to do a baseline security assessment with the CIS controls, for instance. That would be one of the first milestones in their program.
Awesome. Well, it's good to hear that you're thinking about programs like that and how programs can contribute to not only to cybersecurity's community, but to individuals that we don't get to see often enough in our field of expertise, bringing those along with us. I think it goes a long way to say that even I've got 3 daughters, so women in cybersecurity, I'm always promoting that. So my second daughter finally gave way and decided to get into cybersecurity herself, and so I'm trying to pursue or help her pursue up into the master's degree levels and see what we can do. She really likes the idea of getting into Department of Homeland Security and into what they call CISA, which is that Infrastructure and Security Associations. That's the branch, the new one they've come out with just recently in the last year or two. That talks about cybersecurity and it talks about the whole disaster recovery for small businesses and things like that in the Homeland Security arena. So we talked about emergency management and how that fluxes into like cyber hacking, things of that nature. So I can certainly see where it can motivate individuals to want to do a lot and it helps in their communities. So I mean, I'm guessing there's the sky's the limit when it comes to some of this stuff because there's all kinds of things to do in cybersecurity. So
absolutely, and I think what we're all trying to do is at least what I'm trying to do as a business is be able to help the small and medium-sized businesses be able to implement or create a roadmap to be more secure or increase their level of cybersecurity resiliency by leveraging talent that's recently trained. That way they can come across within their organization. Now, you had mentioned that your daughter is she's already taking her master's degree?
Well, she just came out of high school and we're already hyper accelerated. And so next year she will have her bachelor's. So she's actually had some on the high school side and was able to take that with her. She went over to CTU and looked at their cyber degree program. Was able to take double classes because, of course, support from home. She does go to work still. Works over at King Soopers for right now at Starbucks. She loves that a lot, I guess. Learn how to make coffee.
Would she be willing to do some training?
Yeah. She's all
already
for
moving toward that.
Yeah, you're right. No, there's she really does. I keep asking her too. I have to ask her, are you sure you still want to do this? Because it's still eluding some of what my thoughts about her. But no, she's full force all the way. So trying to get her there to get those things. So certainly advocating for women, yes, in cybersecurity. I always love to see those things. So it's good on you that that's some of the focus for your group too as well. Is there anything else question-wise that you want to talk about with the class that I might have not have brought up? Anything specific? Any more pointers? I know Dr. Cole is a very prominent piece when it comes to this. So,
I don't know that the class is very robust in the concepts that are covered. I'm actually at this point about halfway through and so excited to continue on. But I also, I think it's worth mentioning his podcast as well, The Life of a CISO. Yes. I've instructed members of my team to go there to listen because he puts information. Even people that are non-technical are going to be able to clearly understand his messaging, which I think is the difficulty and most people have a challenge in overcoming when it gets too deep. Yeah. And he doesn't really get too deep in that. It's a great explanation.
Yeah, I think for the most part, from what I've got a chance to see myself and go over, he really does cover a lot of the different objectives as a cybersecurity senior exec, and talks mainly of how it focuses in on the managerial components, objectives that a company would have, an organization would have, and just how that trends into, really motivating the objects or the goals for the company itself. So it does help a goal or help a organization be supportive of the cybersecurity side and vice versa. So I think he does a very good job of blending that. So in his class,
and he had some great book recommendations to really get into, like the Blue Ocean Strategy was something that I don't know if you've been able to get through too much of that yet. I'm about to finish it, and I'm really impressed with that book. It gave me a whole bunch of inspiration for new ideas or how to apply or extend some ideas I already had.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It did have some. It helps you orientate towards the managerial, the business aspects of it. It was some openers for me as far as not realizing some of that stuff. And there's no place that I can think of that really hones in on what vCISO and just how to be a good vCISO, how to be a good CISO. Period. I can't find anything. There's nothing under the academic. There's nothing now. It looks like UCCS has something more of the executive cyber business management program that they've just cropped up here in the last year and a half. But I haven't got my chance to even see what it's like. It might be more centered towards what we're thinking, but there's nothing like what Dr. Cole's come up with so far. I haven't seen it anywhere else. And I think there's a lot of missing, and the world of cybersecurity itself. Actually, there's so much that's needed, and this is the bigger part. This is a big major part of it, is getting those engineers into that mindset and kind of being able to cross-validate and learn some, articulate some ideas behind what management's supposed to be like and what business is supposed to be like on this C-suite arena, right?
And to your point there, I've certainly seen a number of other classes that I've audited, at least, for what they claim to be CISO certifications, and they were entirely technical, going more down the penetration testing path alone, or getting very deep into the technical and not covering the business, which that's a huge miss in the other programs.
Yeah, you're right. I've seen two other programs that I've actually got certified on one program. So I think it got more into the technical side and to architectural design, if you will, not necessarily the what motivates a company to actually take on the risk assessments, and where does that turn out to be good for the company. So those aspects like that were, I know, number one, nobody wants to run around talking about their vulnerabilities, right? So, I mean, that's what cybersecurity wants you to do is, hey, come in and here's all the holes in our system, come fix them type of thing. But a good CEO is not going to say that our system looks that bad. So how do you turn that into something motivational for the business objective to really make cybersecurity shine when it comes to supporting the business? So those are things I think this company or the class really promotes there.
You just definitely inspired a different thought there regarding one of the concepts that we covered that I've always challenged with is, we talk about in class about how organizations typically want to throw additional technology implementations as opposed to people behind different, to solve an issue. For instance, other systems that will do logging, but there's not enough people to actually review the logs.
Right.
And that becomes a bigger issue with more technology and not more people to review it. And I loved the way that he broke it down by indicating that that's an opportunity to get in front of the business to explain, if you're not willing to give more resources, then we're going to tune our logs to an appropriate level that can be reviewed. So there are things that we're going to prioritize. And that's a big portion of the classes.
Yeah, and the metrics, how you it's not necessarily what you say to them, it's how you say it to them. So yeah, you're talking about, honing it in on just the way your department actually can be able to handle what kind of transpires inside the systems. being able to support how the logging factors work, things of that nature. Yeah, I could see where if you get in there and you're saying different numbers, that's not going to establish good metrics. You're certainly not feeding into the positive atmosphere promotion of the business objectives. So that makes cybersecurity look like on the offensive some days. So you do have to watch those measures or defensive, I guess you could say. You have to watch those measures when you walk in the door, because not all C-suite people, most C-suite people, managers, that they're not anywhere close to techie. So they don't want to hear techie. They want to hear the business. So.
Exactly. And I've been striving to become a CISO for quite some time. At one point held an interim role in the past. And I think one of the biggest things that I always missed was not understanding the financials and which business lines were actually generating the most revenue for the organization. And that's, I know you would agree. We hone in on that topic, quite a bit throughout the program, the importance of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and it's good chatting with another senior level and experienced cybersecurity individual about these things. I think that vCISO role, actually, he's typing out something to me. I got a little offset. That vCISO role, I think, is going to explode. I think it's just inevitably the way of the future. I think it advocates as a service. Right, that whole idea behind virtual CISO advocates as a service, I think that's one of the smartest ideas I think coming along. Because you want to think about a small mom and pop shop that just doesn't have the resources but needs the assistance. Where do they get that from? I mean, what's the idea behind it? What do you think?
Well, I think that in the past there's been a feel that we're too small. Why would we be targeted? And I know that that's something, Dr. Cole and many programs will cover, that everyone is a target, because if you're the low-hanging fruit, so they need a program that's right sized for the organization, so they can understand what their most vital assets are, and that they need to focus on protecting those specific assets. Yeah. And that's why they need someone in a vCISO role, even if it's a limited number of hours, to get them to that point. And
that's a good service model, because they're not going to be able to pay the $300,000 associated fee with having your full blown CISO, and that's not going to be a need. A mom and pop shop may run one or two servers, and they don't have a need for full blown IT, staffing. So outsourcing that, and there's plenty of services out there to start staffing how IT works, but nothing to really reassure them about how the vCISO and those components can come in and play roles for them. So this is that's something that's opening up. I don't think it's hit mainstream just yet. I know that buzzword is out there, vCISO. So, and I'm not sure how many people, when I do say it out there in the world, I don't get a lot of reaction except for kind of the scratch of the head and the eye tilt and kind of stare at you like, So I'm not sure if it's actually out there as what maybe I think it is. What do you think? It seems to have been out there, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years, 5 years. I want to say it's been out there as long as I can remember. In the last 5 or 6 years, the idea of a vCISO has been out there. So, but apparently not. New concept.
No, I think it's been out there, but it's been in very. It hasn't been clearly marketed to a wider audience. There have been small pockets where it's been deployed, and what it really meant wasn't clearly defined at that particular point. And I think we're starting to get traction on, setting that standard.
Yeah, I think so too. And so for your company, veterans and associated, the idea behind promoting women in the cybersecurity arena. So the idea behind vCISO, I'm assuming that the scope of the way you're going to do it is going to be more aligned with promoting vCISOs in general and targeting those types of services. So, and how they promote.
So for me, I'm sorry, you broke up just a little bit there for a second. But I think what you were saying is that from the way I plan on offering the vCISO services is really extending it by enabling a lower cost service to my clients, by having people that are going, really an apprentice program so that they can receive those services at a lower cost, but certainly have me be able to sign off on the effectiveness and the quality of what's being produced by these resources that are obtaining the experience. And I'm going to be working very closely with them to get that done.
That's good. I think people will appreciate that the most, because and it gives opportunity to stack the experience for individuals that may not have all of it, or just coming in and only have very little of it. So that's really helping out the cybersecurity community and in all major facets of cybersecurity. So greatly appreciated on some of the opportunity to chatting with you about how the impact of this class has molded, your business and support of the community of cybersecurity and some of the other things. I appreciate your time, Jim, and certainly hope to get to speak to you again, see you in class, and just all around. Hopefully, as we go along in the business, maybe a little competition out there from one another, but however, certainly want to get with you again, a couple months down the road and see how it's still working out for you as well. So,
well, thank you very much, Tim, for having me on. I'm actually looking at it as more partnership opportunities, with organizations. That's the way I look at it. I don't think it's necessarily. I think the market is so large for the services we intend to provide. We need to work with one another to really be able to better protect the organizations.
Yep. No, I agree with you 100%. I think there's enough out there. I think the equivalent of 8 million positions that weren't filled over different regions. I think we were at 800 or 1.2 here in the United States. They filled 700,000. That we're still at 800 and something thousand. That was the statistics taken, I think, last year by ISC Squared. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. This is your host, Tim Montgomery, and this will do it for this edition of New Cyber Frontier. So have a good day.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in the virtual world, but you are the only one truly in command of your virtual fate. Join our mailing list so we can keep you informed of breaking news and new releases. If you have an idea, if you have a question that you would like to hear answered, or if you want to get involved with our efforts, reach out to us at newcyberfrontier.com. We also encourage you to visit our sponsors' links, as they are the ones that really make this show possible. I want to thank each of you for supporting the show, and we look forward to seeing you back for the next episode of New Cyber Frontier.